All right, welcome back to the No BS Guide, 642. This is chapter, what chapter?
Jamie?
Of the book 16.
Chapter 16.
Chapter 16.
Starting off, dependent variable, independent variable. Delete it, because if you don't know by now, you're fucked. Cut. That is true. All right. Besides those first two words that we should have known already, we're going to talk about between subject design and within subject design. So, between subject design is basically your standard, like, randomized control trial, where people are getting distributed into different groups randomly. So subjects are assigned to independent groups using randomized procedure. Pretty simple. But within subject designs would be if a patient or a person is their own control. So if you're doing a study on quad hypertrophy, they can be their own control by using one leg as the treatment group and then using their other leg as their control group.
I see.
Yeah. So we have overlapping group stuff too.
Excuse me, Professor
Can you
P.
respond back? Receive, thank you.
Professor P.
Yes.
So, a between subjects design is like your standard design, right? Where they're assigned to groups, and then that's the between subjects, because it's different people.
Yeah.
And then the within subjects, like you said, is comparing like themselves.
Yeah.
So like
They're their own control.
you could conduct like a within subjects study, I don't know, of like hypertrophy, of like doing this program versus that program. That'd still technically be a study within yourself.
But typically, if like they would do like a washout period, so they'd have you do like one program, wash you out for like 4 weeks, or something like that. All right, this is Jamie's list.
Hell yeah.
Another kind of term for within subjects design is repeated measure design. So that is on the morning classes list, repeated measure design. And
Shout out.
is also on our list.
It's on our list too.
Yeah, so you're just using the same subject as their own control.
I don't get it.
It's the same thing as what I just described before within subject design. It's just another term. These are literally the same thing.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So this is for the morning group here. We got pre-test, post-test control group design, also known as parallel group study. So this is basically your standard RTC with one independent variable. And there's like 2 or more groups formed by random assignment. So like we said before, random assignment is like between subject design. And then they just see if there's a significant difference between groups. So if you give one group baclofen and another group placebo, you see if there's a difference in
Kid loves baclofen.
spasticity. It's because that's what my PICO is.
I know.
All right.
You want to write my Pico paper?
I haven't even finished mine yet.
I'm very honored to make my first cameo as a star student of the No BS Guide. I'm going to explain factorial design. So basically, what it is, it's a study where you have 2 or more independent variables, not 1, 2, or more, but probably not more than 3. That's what the textbook said. So basically, an example would be, if you're doing a study on spasticity, your independent variables could be baclofen as one group, massage as another group, and Botox as a third group. And shout out to the morning group, you guys have what's called a two-way factorial design. So how many independent variables do you think that's going to be? 2. And then 3-way would be 3.
Give an example.
I already did.
Let me explain that. So the dependent variable is the same. So in Tulpa's example, that would be spasticity is the dependent variable. The independent variable is the treatment. So the treatment would be control, baclofen, massage, and whatever else they would determine to be treatment. Okay, so attrition. This was actually asked, I think, 2 or 3 quizzes ago. It's basically also known as experimental mortality. Throughout trials, they tend to last multiple months. And let's go back to the baclofen example. Let's say some subject was having really bad side effects with the baclofen treatment and they didn't want to deal with it anymore. They can just drop out. And that's basically what attrition is. Dropping out for reasons, it could be for whatever reason. Could be side effects.
Because they're pussies.
Could be that. Or it could be specific reasons related to the experimental design, as per Jamie.
Hell yeah, thank you for the
Is that a morning group term or is that both?
Both.
Alright.
Might put her in purple. Next word on the list, which is a twofer. Both groups have it. So it is 2 standard deviation band rule. This is basically when 2 consecutive data points from an intervention phase fall outside 2 standard deviations. So I'll pull up the picture from the textbook. This band are 2 standard deviations away from the mean. So if 2 consecutive data points like this fall outside of the band, it's statistically significant.
Yo, this shit makes no sense.
All you
It
gotta
made
know,
sense until you brought in the graph.
she's not gonna give us a graph, but all you have to know is if it's outside the bands, it's statistically significant. If it's inside the bands, it's not. And it has to be
So
2
A
points.
isn't?
Wait, how much is this?
These are not statistically
So a standard
significant.
deviation, this is what, 1.15 or 1.17?
Isn't it 1.95?
Well, in this, it would be, because I see what it's saying. Yeah, this is pretty significant.
So up
Isn't-
here,
isn't
these are
B
significant.
is?
That's like really,
B
really
is,
significant.
Yeah, this is significant.
What'd they give them? Steroids?
Give them some shit. Yeah.
Okay.
2 consecutive points fall outside the band.
Can't just be one outlier.
So let's say this one was out here. It wouldn't be significant.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
So this point was out here, like it wouldn't be considered significant even though it's outside the bands. But over here we have multiple points. Or 2
Oh,
points.
just because it's one.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying. I didn't
2
know.
bands, 2 standard deviations.
2 bands, 2 standard deviations, statistically significant.
So we want that.
Yeah, I would say if you're running a trial. All right, next word, crossover design. This is basically where we take half the subjects in the study, give them a treatment sequence of A, B, and then the other half gets B, A. This is basically to see if the sequence of interventions has an effect on the outcome.
Give an example. Give an example.
So, an example of this would be, Tolfo had a good example earlier.
Yeah, I did.
So we take one group, have them strength train, and then stretch, and then see their hypertrophy response. Then we have the other group, stretch, then strength train, then see their hypertrophy response. We can kind of sparse out whether the sequence matters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, washout period. So, washout period is actually not too bad of a concept. This is when a treatment has cumulative effects, and
What
this
does cumulative effect mean?
generally I have no clue. But I don't think you have to know it. I think what you have to know is that it allows for the treatment, which let's say has an effect on spasticity, like baclofen, allows it to be washed out, and then the subject can be given the alternative treatment in the study. So this picture is a good descriptor of it. So group 1 gets a pre-test intervention A, we'll say it's baclofen, then a post-test to see spasticity, a little, we'll say 4-week washout period, then the same subjects.
I got an example.
You got one?
You can keep going.
Same subjects, we'll give a pre-test again because they're about to get intervention B. Let's say it's massage, and then a post-test. So this is really good because you can use the same individual as their own comparison. So there's an, what do you call, confounding factors.
So my thought process is for washout period, cumulative effect. If we're going with the stretching hypertrophy training example, you could think of cumulative effect. I don't know which one would be more correct. You could think of it as like, let's say you want to do back-to-back studies, right? Like you want, I don't know, to expose them to each of the sequence orders, the same person. But the cumulative effect could be after like they do a 4-week training program, they get fatigued. So you don't want to immediately start up the new program. You want to take that washout. Or
That's great.
you want to just completely deload them because now the cumulative effect of the first program is that they will have less muscle gain potential in the next program because, as we know, beginners have more of an ability to build muscle than people that have been training for 4 weeks.
That's a great example.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
It is right.
All right, word.
All right. The main effect
It's not as simple as you think.
not as simple as you think, but is the effect of just one independent variable on the dependent variable. So let's say we had a study seeing how students would perform on a standardized test given caffeine, theanine, or the combination of both.
Yo, I think that'd be a 3-way factorial study.
That actually, and then placebo, so maybe 4-way.
Yeah.
So in the group that's given the combination of both, you can't really determine the effects of just caffeine or just theanine because they're getting both and those drugs can interact. So in the group that's given just caffeine, you can get the main effect of caffeine because it's one independent variable on a dependent variable, which is test scores. So, generalizability. Basically, the simple way of thinking about it, can you generalize your outcomes from the study to elsewhere, to like the actual population? But we threw the little actual textbook definition in here. So it justifies the application of outcomes to groups or situations other than those directly involved in investigation or external validity. If you guys remember, it had to do with external validity. I think we actually got quizzed on this.
We did.
So we should know this.
God.
All right, sequential trial or sequential clinical trial is basically an alternative to RCT where, let's say in an RCT of, like say Ozempic, they are taking the subject's weight at 8 weeks of use of Ozempic. Instead of doing that, a sequential clinical trial would be taking their weight, let's say, every 7 days until they determine they've hit a significant amount of weight loss for the results, and they can just end the trial there. So let's say that happens at 6 weeks and they've lost 10% of their weight. They don't have to go to the 8 weeks. And this just allows for benefits like you don't need as many participants. You could
Avoid unnecessary inferior
Attrition.
treatments.
Yeah, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so if you guys remember, a main effect is one independence variable's effect on the dependent variable. Interaction effect would be like 2 or more. So in the study that I was talking about previously, that would be the caffeine and theanine together working to have an interaction effect. It's pretty simple.
Is that actually true? Like that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So in this example they used here, it's joint protection training and exercise. So apparently there's an interaction effect with those two going together versus them individual. Yeah. What's going on?
We gotta go to red, so I don't really know what this is, but
Total variance, I think it's just there's two components of it. There's the between the groups, so that's differences between the means, and there's within the groups, that's like error between the subjects. So it's like the treatment effect is the one on the left, and then the error of like the subjects is on the right. And then when you analyze all that shit using ANOVA, which I don't even know what that is, you
ANOVA is just difference between means, so that'd be between groups.
get total variance. So
Yeah. Agree. Get the fuck out of here.